Thank you, Ted. I'd like to call this meeting of the Coventry Charter Review Commission together. It is 6:30. Michael's not going to be here tonight. He's in South Carolina, so I will ask Sarah to take the roll call.
Oh, gosh, on the spot. I wasn't prepared. I'm sorry. All right, Ted,
Present.
Jim,
Present.
Bob,
Here.
Ben,
Here.
Ben. Gosh, I'm
Brad.
so sorry, Brad. Too
Yeah.
many B's.
Present.
Scott.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
And so we're noting for the record that Michael Stevens is absent. Who else are we missing?
That's it.
That's
Make
it.
sure-
All right.
Just make sure that,
Yep.
that Ray is here.
And
I am
Stevens
still
is here.
Okay,
All
the
right.
emergency evacuation procedures, should an alarm ring, we go out this door, which leads directly outside. Has everyone received a copy of the minutes from May 25th?
No.
So we won't be
No, we don't know.
discussing that until we get everything in place, probably because Mike is out of state. Okay, old business. Section 801 through 859, financial provisions, discussion and action. Jim.
Yeah, I just mentioned a couple of things. One is we had some discussion about communicating a potential budget referendum. So I went back and forth with Ted and Ray. We added some language. I have copies of this I can hand out to you guys. It's pretty simple. But I want you to be aware of what we added. We also discussed the idea, and this is something maybe it's in a separate action, the idea of allowing mail-in vote and early voting
Yes,
for the ballot, which is another
you
section.
put that under election law, right?
And I have that coming up.
You've
when we
got
get
that,
to-
you've
yeah.
got that then. So Ted will have that action.
Mhm.
Okay. I just highlighted it. I only gave you one page of multiple pages of the language that we passed
So we're
out.
looking at the last three paragraphs.
Yeah, so really what's been added here, and by the way, I mean, I kind of polled like 6 or 7 of my neighbors and nobody knew there was a ballot referendum from the date. Because it wasn't really well publicized.
No, it wasn't.
Just,
And it wasn't really written as a legal notice. It was written as a why don't you come and vote type thing. So
it's worth
the lack of journalism and the lack of media, paper media, it means that we have to kind of like change the way that we do things.
So I built in some ideas here, and I'd love to get you guys feedback on this, is if it makes sense, maybe we need to arrange it. Ray reviewed it as well. So I just kind of highlighted them, and I'll just zip through. If you kind of look at the last 3 paragraphs, I specifically noted CoventryRI.org website. You know, it was published in one or more newspapers. Example, the referendum was on page 16 of the reminder. I went to page 16. I now look at it now because we discussed it here. Prior to that, I would go immediately into my recycling bin, but now I read it just because I'm here. Most people probably would never have seen that. I made a suggestion separate from this. I made a suggestion in my email I've shared with Ted, and I think yourself.
Yes.
Is the idea that I saw how much it costs to put a significant ad on the front page of the reminder, which is $750. That's worth it. Get it out of page 16 for free, I guess, and put it on page
No,
1.
they probably pay 600 for the last page. So.
Do they? Well, it didn't seem like much more for a front page.
And a lot of people, it's not the reminder of old, from what I'm told, it's like people get it now
Mhm.
and it makes it to file 19. And it's not what it used to be. It used to be very informative. It had a lot of like nonprofit things in the notices like clubs and stuff that were having meetings or fundraisers. You don't see that anymore. And in the past, they did direct mail to the citizens of those.
And that's what I added, shall mail to each Coventry eligible voter. I mean, I think it's money well spent. I know it's a cost. but-
Seriously, how much does a postcard saying referendum Tuesday? Here's
Back in
the
the day,
5
they
polling
used-
places, like you can put like just a postcard, not even like a
For the
letter.
town of Coventry, about $15,000.
Okay,
It's a
but
big expense.
To the registered voters or to the population?
So the only reason why I
One
know
per
is because
household.
right now I have to send out postcards for redistricting for West Warwick. We have a considerably less amount of voters than Coventry does. We only have around 20,000. Coventry has 30,000. So it's costing me $10,000 to just send out postcards just to our eligible voters for that.
I think we have to remember too,
Figure.
and that's a number I think I remember too.
Yeah.
We had a lot of
When the
discussion about it.
board of canvassers was here, they talked about
Yeah, they
it.
said it's around that.
Well, let's keep in mind, only if it's triggered. Remember the new process that goes along with this. This is tied to the petitioning process. You get 500 signatures and they're verified and approved and done. Triggers probably what's a significant petition
Right.
that should also have a significant communication, in my opinion,
I don't disagree with.
$15,000 is a relative amount of money. It's a
We're
lot of
spending-
money when you have a
spending that
tight,
to redo what we just did,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Well, if people aren't aware that there's a budget coming in and it fails, it costs $20,000 to $30,000 to have another referendum. So
The only issue I have with that is that as a resident, a responsible resident who pays attention to our budget process, I know that every year we're gonna have a vote. It's gonna be there. People should know that. So maybe it's a matter of communicating to people. I don't know if it's when they register to vote or whatever. I really don't think that we should be bearing the expense of sending a postcard personally. I don't feel that way. I may be the minority, but I feel like it's my responsibility as a resident to inquire about when our budget vote is, knowing that it comes up every single year. It's not like it's like a once in a while thing, arbitrary every other year. I mean, it's really our responsibility.
New process, it may not come up every year. Experience in North and South Kingstown, it's once every few years they have a petition,
Which would be even better.
which would be even better.
Mhm.
But I guess I disagree with you, because I'm just thinking, look at even national elections, not everybody votes. Everybody's busy, everybody's working, commuting, they forget. We could say, I don't disagree with you, it's their responsibility, but people forget. And they need to be reminded, and with something as important as this, you can't remind people enough. So if you could go down with the other ideas, never mind a mailing, identifying the website, making sure it's there. Because I've heard a lot of people, well, we have a website, go to the website. I bet you half the people come don't even know what the website is, or has never even gone there. They probably have the statistics of how much use is out there, how many web analytics that they have, or unique individuals who've gone there. They probably have that info, you probably can get that. But I bet you it's few and far between.
Well, I caution to put the mandate in our charter. I would leave it up to the council to decide if they want to send out postcards or not. Just a thought. I mean, mandating it. Now, if we get a
That's-
really blue
that's true.
year,
That's true.
I
That's a good point.
I have a problem with leaving things to the town council because
They can
I
choose
fear-
not to do it.
I don't know who actually sent out these letters. So I will not say it was the then sitting town council, but in 2020, when the first budget was proposed that had a 0% increase, I got a letter saying, this is the budget that's being proposed. Here are the polling places. Here is what we're asking of you, basically trying to get me to vote. Now,
right,
if I go vote yes, they get 0. If I vote no, they get 0. But so that was telling me that they were trying to get me to vote yes, put an end to this, and we have no increase. I don't know who actually paid
Right.
for that to be sent. When they put budget number 2 forward that had a 4% increase, crickets. Okay, no one is pushing me to go vote because they don't want it. Or I won't say that, but the perception was fine. We do want it, didn't vote for 0, vote for this, whatnot.
right.
But not much effort was being put in by anyone to try to get people to vote for a big increase.
Can I ask a
So,
question?
yes,
Do you think that the voter turnout with the postcards was more than the ones without it?
That's a good question.
I think
So
it was,
that
I think it was
particular
I think it
year-
was actually similar. I'd have to look up what the
Usually
actual numbers are.
postcards that you
but-
get like that are from like a town committee that's trying to
Right.
push the budget one way or another.
Right. It just got, the perception I got was when they want me to vote for it, they'll make the effort. When they don't want me to vote for it, they won't make an effort. So if our job is we're trying to put in requirements that are just to inform, I just fear that it's like, well, let's not send it this time because we don't want you to vote for it.
That's the only one I can
That's
think
why
of.
it shouldn't go into the town council's hand. It should be written right in. And mind you, I don't have a question. When you do S4, do you mail to every voter or do you mail to every voting household?
For what?
when you send, like a publication out, like it, what are you
We
sending out
don't,
now?
no, so every town in the state of Rhode Island right now has to send out postcards for redistricting, because basically telling every voter if they've had any changes in their polling location. Or
So that is
So-
mailed to every registered voter,
It is.
as opposed to every
Coventry will be
voting,
doing it too.
as opposed to, yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that. But for the budget process,
We do not.
okay, so if we did it, we could do it to every voting household.
Yes,
So they've got
That's-
saved
yeah, when I,
50% of the cards
So,
could.
and like I said, past
Good.
practice, what they would send out like a trifold, 8x11. You know, this is the budget that's being proposed. Here are your voting places. These are the reasons why there were increases here and there. Get as much information on there as you can, so that when they see it, and if it's designed right, they're gonna pick it up and they're gonna look at it. It has been done in the past.
Yeah.
And then it hasn't been done in the past. So I feel pretty strongly about putting it in the charter and mandating that you let the taxpayers know that this is what's being proposed.
And again, in our proposal, it's only if we approve this entire rollover where we may not have a referendum at all. So it's not like we're saying, do this every year, whether we're on the current process or the new process, so.
If there's no challenge to the budget, then there's no need.
And if there is a challenge, there's only one challenge, so it's only one, it wouldn't be something where if we have 3 referendums, like on our current system, we would be doing this 3 times over.
Pennsylvania, that's the way he had it the first time, was every household. And we exchanged some information back and forth, and my thought was, not everyone in the household shares information. So, you potentially,
Sure.
True.
just a franchise,
Yeah.
I guess, money.
That's
Somebody's not getting the info.
25,000 items of mail.
But, you know what, I'll take a look back in the past practices and see what it costs, but I really don't think that it costs. At the very most, it would cost $5,000 with how they did it, not so much, with the postcard. And I think they have their own printing abilities in here and their own nonprofit
I mean, really, they should,
postage thing.
What's,
two things. One, build it into the budget. A, B, let me look at to your point, let's look at some statistics where they've done this and see if it moved the needle.
Right.
It's been done in probably in other towns, and we could reach out to a few towns and find out if they did it.
Right.
That might be a fair way. If they say it didn't move the needle. Because the killer with these things too, you start getting into late May and June, which are not the best times to be voting on anything. But how's that sound? That might be,
I just would hate to see us mandate them to do these mailings, which obviously are costing all of us money at the end of the day, and it really not make a difference. I know we all get solicited, whether it be from a candidate, from everything, and how many times does that go right into the garbage? Those of us who are invested in the process obviously read it, but your average citizen isn't, so.
I remember I did get that. I think I got a letter one year to describe what was going on and when it was, and
Right.
I just personally thought it was a pretty good idea.
yeah,
I was pretty new here. I was only here a few years, so.
I think people read publications from the town regarding budget a lot more than they read publications about electing a candidate. I don't know why that is, but it's, people pay attention to what it's gonna cost them.
Yeah.
Not so much that who's running for what office.
I just know that number one, sorry, but I get the reminder every week and it goes straight into my
Same.
bin and that's it. So number one, if it wasn't literally under the word reminder, I didn't see it.
And that was my point.
in my section of town doesn't.
As you're bringing it to the
There you go.
recycling, you'll see it at the
Right.
front.
And if it's a postcard, I will at least look at it. Now, if I look at it and see what appears to be a candidate's name, it goes right next to the reminder. But I will look at it, and if I see that it's a town thing, I may stop and read it. Again, that's just me. So
If nothing else, it puts the date out there in front of everybody.
There's
So you
ways
have the
to get
date, you can put it on your calendar, what time it's gonna be there. I mean,
I personally like to use a variable message board in the center of town at a main intersection. I mean, there's ways to promote voting that don't cost money.
Oh, we
I
have
was
that-
gonna say
I have
that,
that
the
too.
police had one out in front of the annex or something, I don't even know if it's still there, but
Right.
right.
like, can we get a couple of those?
Put those at
Place them
strategic,
around
yeah.
town.
Right, I mean,
I would,
no, go ahead.
I would venture to say that the town manager did not get one single telephone call saying, I didn't know about this vote. All right,
Yeah, that happens all the
But-
time.
if you follow anything on social media, nobody told me that. Nobody told me this vote was coming. So where do you find the balance? Is it worth 10 grand to let everybody know in
Right.
town that the biggest decision that they're gonna make for this year is coming up on a given date?
And then they can't use the excuse I didn't know.
Right. So,
And that's what I'm trying to mitigate. And to your point, is read along here. I suggest 2 digital signs. You know, I think we talked about that a little bit. The police department has one.
Yeah.
Right,
And if you don't have another one, you're in West Warwick, maybe towns could work together instead of buying one?
not when they're passing budgets in the same week.
Well, I'm just wondering if they're not, you know, you could
sure there's
rent,
places to
rent
rent
them, they're
Yeah, get
solar
those-
powered,
Those trucks that go around with the,
2 key locations in
billboard.
town. You're reminded, you know, I mean, and then at worst, if people, and then this was in my email, here I'm suggesting, in the 3rd paragraph. Plus 2 digital signs located on at least 2 entry points to Coventry, reminding electors of the hearing and the all-day budget referendum. That's
Well, that-
easy to do.
Well, it requires them to do it, so.
Yeah, every quarter.
And it's no
Yeah.
different than requiring them to mail something.
I mean, what could be better than that? You can't miss it. There's really some key entry points to town. You've seen it every day, maybe for 2 or 3 days. Don't tell me you didn't know about it. And at worst, you could do what they did with the fire district. I mean, campaign signs, just buy some cheap
Right.
signs, just put up anything. They're very inexpensive. Put up a few.
campaigns, I agree.
The budget is tomorrow. Just,
And they were
They
up.
have used that code red
That's
system
easy
in
to
the
do.
past, but they didn't do it for this budget.
and then we have code red, which I steered away from because I know they had. I mean, they've used it for everything else. It's
do it for
it's
rabies
a pretty
vaccine
important
for
vote. I mean,
dogs.
Yeah, Code Red is a great avenue as long as people are signed up for it. It's definitely a good.
I like that. I
I
like that a
think no
lot.
matter what, you're always gonna get the people that say, I didn't know. I mean, it's,
Yeah, but as a.
It just seems like this year, I've talked to a lot of people who had no idea. Now it's,
No
and
idea.
you know, I know this is the 4th year, I think, that we've had this process. It hasn't become an ingrained thing, like, there's an election in November, people know that.
right,
People don't know that there's a budget vote in May until when to, like, I may not know what week it is, and now I gotta remember to look it up. People are, it's just not there. It's more of, if you were one of those people who always went to the financial town meeting, you know to look for what the new thing is. If you weren't, really, it's missing you.
And even
How many-
the digital signage will reference the website. They want to get the details. So that's what, if I saw that, I want to get the details. There's the details.
So there is no more journalistic media. And I don't know how many charters have been passed. Since the days where it required them to put a legal notice in. So there's nothing in this charter that says a legal notice. You know, you could put a legal notice in the Kent County Times. I don't know if it would get to 500 people. There's not a whole lot of people that are reading newspapers anymore because everything is on the.
Everything's online, and
of
there
course,
you
we
can
know
be
that
very
everything
selective.
on the computer is the truth, right?
as a
Which
matter of
is-
fact, the legislature just removed the requirement, I think it was, and I haven't read the bill, it just passed this past week, they just removed the requirement to advertise, I think it's the final canvas in the paper now, it's to be done digitally, because people aren't reading newspapers, and it's costing towns thousands and thousands of dollars
To print something that no one's gonna read.
that no one's gonna read.
Ray had something.
And I don't know if West Warwick does this, a little big brotherish, but, does anybody know if the town does any like geofencing on certain things? There are companies out there that do that, and I don't know how much they cost, but I know colleges do it. So that their message gets out to,
I mean, like a polling company.
no, it's all,
Marketing.
it's
I
marketing.
think we target
Polling
marketing.
And it's geared at social media and you put up these geofences and everybody in that area gets
These, yeah.
a certain notice or gets drawn to a certain notice.
But this town is growing a lot, and if people aren't not understanding that, you know, the population has tripled over the last 30 years. That's a lot,
There's a lot of construction going on. I mean, there's land here.
Yep, there's land and
A
it's
lot
gonna
of land
continue to
and
grow.
it's, yeah.
But
I found one of my old campaign finance forms just to give you an idea of what maybe a mailer costs. So I did about 85% of my district, and I did it with format printing up in North Providence. And I remember going there and he said, what you can do is get your district map and you can find the mail routes, and it will go to every house on the mail routes. I said, okay. So I'm looking here, it cost me like $2,700, and it roughly hit about 85% of my district. So if you're talking about Coventry, it might be maybe a little bit more because you got to hit, obviously Coventry is bigger than the Senate district. But again, to Sarah's point, I mean, I do agree with her, like, we don't want to waste money on literature that people might just take and throw away. I do like the idea of those digital signs that you can throw up at intersections or heavily traveled roads, maybe a week before the vote. Like, you got Hopkins Hill, like all the main hubs to get in and out of Coventry. You obviously want to do like Route 3, Tyoke Ave, 117, Arnold Road, where, Hopkins Hill, wherever people have to go to get in and out of Coventry. Maybe you could rent 3 or 4 of them and put them on those main roads for the week and just have them run 24/7. That maybe should help, but I guess it's trial and error. We're going to have to see what can make a difference if we do a mailer and those lit signs, and then see what the voter turnout is for that, budget. Did it make a difference, And if it doesn't make a difference, then it's kind of like, what do you do? Because I think we're all, banging our heads against the wall. Like, how can we get more people out to vote for this thing? And I think that's been the struggle for years to get, people to go. It's just like when I used to go for the budget meetings in the gymnasium, and it'd be like, 1,000 people, maybe 900 would show up, and then, halfway through, half people are gone, and it's just been, it's very frustrating to see this, So hopefully we can somehow create something that will get more buzz and more participation.
I think over the last maybe 3 or 4 years, we're starting to recognize that the people are pretty much clamoring for some kind of change. Because, what we've done all through the years simply isn't working anymore. And so what we need to do is we need to make a document, and we need to make changes and additions, even if it costs a little bit of money, to engage the voter, to say that we want to know, how you feel about things. Like I said, if they're clamoring for change, let's do it. I think it would be a small investment to send something out. And like I said, I'll check, and I really don't think that they spent any more than like $5,000 to send, a detailed, informational packet simply on, 8 by 13 and both sides. They would just need to have something to capture the voters' attention to say, hey, this is coming up. We want your input.
Sarah,
Come help us.
do you get discount postage if you have to do like,
Yeah, so.
okay, because I just did 55 cents times how many voters, and I know that
Yeah,
comes out
but-
to like 13,000. but-
Publications for that, last time I checked was like 32
Okay.
cents or something. It could have been even less.
But then you have to pay for the postcard itself. So
Okay, I know,
yeah,
I was just trying, the
or-
one number I could come up in my head was postage. I know what a regular stamp costs,
I
but
was just guesstimating based on.
what they, yeah,
Where
I don't think you're
you
that
are
far off,
printing for
so.
that,
Yeah, when I did it with format printing, it definitely wasn't the 59 cents per thing
Right,
I sent out. You get the post office has some kind of bulk deal you can do.
Right.
So
That's what I
and so
thought.
it did bring down the
You gotta
cost,
do
so
You gotta do
I
like
was
so
happy-
many, but that's, yeah.
And
yeah, I was happy that I could be able to afford to do it. I
You
was
have
like, oh,
to-
this is awesome, because
It's,
getting
yeah.
the mail out as a campaign, it's important.
in bulk, they might hear in Coventry, what do we have, 2 zip codes? Three, so you have to bundle them in the zip code.
Yeah.
But that's
But that's
pretty
about it,
easy,
yeah.
yeah.
Or you could, if you do it by voter list. A few years ago, when I did a mailing, it was roughly about 50 cents to each household.
Okay.
I went through a mailing house. I just pulled the voter list from here and just gave it right to the mailing house, and they just removed, so it was 1 per household. And ended up being around 50 cents per piece with postage. And it was for a 5x8 card.
So we'll consider Jim's idea of,
Yeah, take a look at
Mailer out,
these
getting-
three paragraphs. Maybe we come back next week. I'll look at some feedback.
Yeah.
I could look into that, because that'd be good for statistics. If it's not moving the needle. I'm just trying to, if I'm the town council, if I'm anybody else, we did everything humanly possible to make you aware of this.
right,
You know, you cover your bases that way. That's why I'm
well,
looking
that way
at it.
nobody can say I didn't, nobody told
And I
me.
did like getting,
Well,
but
say it
what you were
They can
able to.
say it, but
If it's more than a postcard, it's even a sheet of paper and an envelope. You get some particulars of what is this, because that's important too. My fear is there's this referendum, yeah, whatever. You know, there's a website, yeah, maybe tonight after work at 7 o'clock after dinner, I'll go look at that. Probably not, probably got the TV on. But those are things that concern me. With a letter, you can say, here's the budget, and here's a petition. This is what it wants to do. With a little bit of verbiage in there,
Right.
explaining it. People might go, wow,
so we also have to make something.
pretty
that's-
significant.
We have to do something that's futuristic. We're not doing it just for next year. We're doing it
Mhm.
Hopefully for a while.
for a while. You know, and then Bob's idea about, you know, the full big charter review, you know, the comprehensive one. It can be addressed in there too.
You know, and a few lawn signs, I mean, boy, that's the terrible low hanging fruit. I mean, I know it sounds like it's old fashioned, but. You for the cover, the fire district thing, I saw those signs every day. There were 3 of them on the way of Park Hill Road. Every day I saw them.
And I think we actually last year did the electronic messages for last year's budget. I remember seeing the one outside CVS.
It's super helpful.
So,
I think the issue with this year is that there was really no hot button topic. There was nothing major. They're not threatening to cut school sports. They're not.
nothing. There
you know,
was
there
no,
was no
Nothing to
big.
vote against.
it's a
So-
moderate budget. It kind of meets
So
our
why
needs.
wouldn't it
It's not
pass?
ridiculously one end, not because
Because-
no one had a problem with it.
That's
That's
right.
the thing.
The only
People
ones
who
that show
want-
up are the ones that
There's
have
a
the
there's a
problem.
faction who people who don't want to vote no on everything. They want to see no increase. So they will always show up. It's
So
we need the
to
people.
your point, and I mentioned it, Scott, the votes are there, in my opinion. It's a get out the vote thing.
Yes,
And people aren't voting. Because they think, well, everything will just be fine.
Like,
Well, it's
well,
not.
I
Is it
watched the
fine?
presentation.
No.
I'm okay with it. Did you vote? Oh, I have to vote. Yeah, if you don't go vote, it will not get approved.
My
It can
two
only be
neighbors
approved
now
if you
done it,
vote.
but I mentioned to them. They
Oh, I
go,
thought you're only voting if
What are
you
you
vote
talking
one
about?
against it.
Well, that's what happened.
Yeah.
The only people that went are the ones that were against it.
Right, exactly.
but there were also, there was also some legislation passed some years ago that said that, you know, any referendum or any fire district vote or this or that, and you purchase signs and stuff, you have to report it to campaign finance. It was put in by Jay Edwards, I think, maybe in 2010 or 11, because, you know, people were just going out buying signs and throwing them all over the place and things weren't getting passed. So that was kind of being used against people, but there was no responsibility, you know, to the person that went out and did the politicking for it. So that might be an issue. I'll look at that law a little bit closer, but that's something that if you bought signs, you know, to try to get your budget passed, you might fall under that category of campaign finance. Something to think about.
Yeah, because technically you'd be campaigning
Correct.
for a cause, for a budget.
As long as it didn't say approve or deny, if it just said budget
Vote.
vote. May 16th, I don't know, I'm just throwing a date out there. I know it's usually the end of May, and that's it. I don't think,
Yeah.
and it's.
So like the
purchased
signs
by
that have
the
been
town.
around, say. we
Yeah,
can't
vote, budget
afford not
referendum
to-
this day. That's
Well, it's
one
been around for like. 30
versus
years
vote
and
no,
it's-
or vote yes.
whether it's a digital sign or a lawn sign, it's a sign.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
and I think-
And we do it all the time.
I'll look up and see what they did, you know, their past practice on notices, and sending it out, what the cost was.
So maybe we all have our actions to kind of fine tune this and maybe we come back to the table. next
Well,
week.
we're trying to get
Wrap it
government
up.
to work for the voter,
Yeah,
and, you know, a small investment.
we need to do
In
something.
my mind,
Yeah.
isn't, you know, isn't a, you know, something that isn't gonna help.
And it can't be optional. This year we won't do anything. This year we will do a million. And next year maybe we will put a sign
Exactly.
out. It
That's why I
should
said
be,
I wouldn't leave it to the council.
communication is key. It's particularly in this area. It's a bit of a big area.
If you get a council that doesn't wanna pass a, you know,
Yeah.
a budget, then they won't send a mail. If you get a council that wants to pass a budget, they'll send a mail. Put it in here.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
that's a really good
You
point.
have to do this.
Well, the council is always the ones presenting the budget. Shouldn't they always want it to pass? Why wouldn't?
I think
Not in
I think
2020.
we've seen a time when they did not.
Yeah,
When their original one was.
Their
rejected.
original one was
Yeah.
rejected, and then they're like, fine, you
Then
wanna
it goes
vote,
down.
fine, we'll give you a chance to vote for a
Yeah,
full
with the
increase,
point-
go ahead,
I call it the
vote,
point
I
of
dare you
control.
to, and basically like. Look here, because it's on video, one of the council members said, I am voting to send this to the budget, but I will not vote for it when I have my referendum, when the ballot comes to me.
Right.
That's on record as the former council member saying that, basically saying, I don't want this budget, but, well, you voted ignoring 0, so I guess we'll give you a chance to vote on 4. And if the
And I-
people vote for it, so be it, but I don't want this budget. That was what the
Right.
council member said. So yeah, there's a time when they might want you to vote against it.
I think that's kind of a unique situation in the fact that their original presented budget was rejected. I think typically, especially if they have an A or B option where it's not, they're gonna be wanting to see their budget.
Well, normally
In this
I would,
All of that went through, they would
Yeah.
be wanting. to see.
and I just look at the situation and now, I don't know what the next budget will look like. I have, my feeling is it'll look maybe very similar with a little tweak, maybe here and there kind of thing, but I do expect this council to be like, all right, we made a couple changes because it didn't work, but we're still putting it forward because we still believe it puts the town in the best interest and we want you to vote
I
for
mean,
it.
if you think about what it's set up right
They're
now,
willing to pay the cost to put that referendum on. And here we are, we're talking about just trying to let the voters know that the referendum is coming up.
Which may not, which may not even exist, so.
True, but, the idea is to get the information out to the people that want it. Some people want it, some people don't
Right.
care. But
Some people you're never gonna reach. I mean, that's
know-
unfortunate, but
like I said, this is a document that's,
And from an elections perspective. We always want to see the most people come out and vote. We do a lot of work to have a small percentage of people come out.
right?
And we have to do the same amount of work whether one comes out or 1,000, so. We want to see people vote. I just
Yeah,
personally
bigger
have a hard
box.
time mandating the town to spend money. So that's my personal position, like I said.
And actually,
they are mandated if a budget goes down and they have to have another referendum.
yeah.
And then if that one goes down, they have to have another
Hopefully we
referendum.
adapt our new.
but we have to remember, we're not asking them to spend more money. They may have a really intelligent way to get a grant or something, or maybe it's just part of the budget to do it every year. It's not new money. It's becomes a routine thing. And if they can find another way to handle it, they might be able to do that, and get some additional money from the state to do that. You know, there
Personally,
might be a way.
Personally, I'd like.
You
to
start
get
moving
the
money
voters-
around, you know, it's like a shell game a little bit, but,
I'd like to get voters' confidence back.
right.
And, just the sentiment out there is anti-government everything. And, how do we do it? We do it by addressing things in the charter.
And you can have that message in that mailer, is
Yeah.
why we're doing this. We're reaching out to you.
Anything further on that? Or was it just those,
No, there's
just that part of it, that
just,
amended language?
just the amended language, we'll work on this some more. Anybody has any ideas, maybe we could work that in over the next week.
Okay.
By email and pass it through Ray. And then maybe we've got something we can vote on and say, yeah, that's gonna be part of our language, which we already approved. This is kind of an amendment to that language. Makes sense. Then we have the other issue too of communicating with the town council that came up with you and I.
Right.
In the end. And should we address that here? Do you want
Not
to?
yet.
Okay,
Public comment, I think.
Okay.
Because I gotta put down the list here, so. So that's the end of your
Okay.
discussion on
Yes,
that, Jim,
yes.
so.
Mhm.
Filling vacancies, Ed,
I haven't
306 and 403.
I have not heard any feedback from the first draft we adopted last week. I believe that, or 2 weeks ago.
And
I
then
don't
we-
know.
And then
We
we also
adopted-
said that it addressed 2 other parts in the charter, and that was. Oh, excuse me, the election
that's-
law 201.
that's the next part.
209, Yeah,
The
okay.
filling vacancies, I think the only question is if we're gonna put a time requirement on filling them, and I'm okay taking it out, I'm okay making it longer. That's why I said, let's adopt the preliminary one, ask the town council for their initial thing. I haven't heard anything back, so. I think the core part we all are pretty much in agreement on, just basically that, maybe that one,
Okay,
but I have nothing else to add on that.
1520 amendment of charter, Bob,
Okay,
and you had something also, right?
Yeah, the things I hand out are in 1520.
okay,
1520.
Nice paper clip, by the way.
Yeah.
Pretty fancy.
glad you like those.
Golden paper clips.
Golden paper.
Nothing but the best. for the Charter Review Commission, I tell you. Not paid for by the town, by the, on the record. you
That's a
know,
donation.
Donation.
Like, hold on, are we using, oh, is this town spending money on gold paper clips? Versus, so, anyway, sorry.
What I did after a lot of back and forth with Ray and I on it is I split 1520 into two sections. First section is the original language in it with the modifications that we've been discussing. The changes you can see that are in here. Okay, no member of the Charter Review Commission shall serve concurrent appointments. Like that I crossed out, and no more than two appointments two concurrent appointments. If a person is on the Land Trust Committee, that should not prohibit them from being on Charter Review Commission. In my opinion, it's, you know, there's no conflict there. For no member of said commission shall be elected, an elected or appointed official of the town. New added languages of the town.
Yeah.
Okay, which is the exception if you hold a state office. There's no reason why you can't be on there.
Right.
Or an employee, or an employee of the town or government or agency is changed to nor managerial position in any department, office, or agency of the town.
So it allows the town.
The
employee-
reference librarian can be on this
Okay,
because she does not have a managerial position.
Right.
You know, but the head librarian could not. Let's see.
Can I, hold on, can I
Yep.
just, something doesn't make sense, I'm just trying to figure this out. The first correction you have here, no more
Yeah, I've
than
seen it
two
too.
appointments, concurrent appointments, so is that saying? I thought the original one was basically you only right now can serve on this committee twice in your life, was how I read it, not two appointments. Is that what we're trying to say? You can't serve or?
You know, I'm not really sure what that was saying.
Okay.
So
Or are you
What I
saying
would
you
do-
can
what I
serve
would do
on
is I
two
would-
boards right now?
after two, I would take the word appointments out.
Yeah, you scratch that out, you're good.
Okay, yeah, that I think,
so where are we?
Right here, Bob.
right up.
Right after the
Just get rid
middle
of-
of two in parentheses, take out the word
No member of the charter review
Just
shall
take out-
serve.
more than two concurrent appointments. So it wouldn't stop them from having a vacation and coming in, you know,
Yeah, so you can do
Year
two,
after.
no more, you can, yeah.
Right.
You
they
can
would-
only serve twice and it can't be in a
Yeah.
row, run after another.
no, you can.
So
serve two.
you could serve two in a row, you couldn't serve three in a row.
You'd have to take a vacation, so to speak.
And then you could get elected two more times, appointed two more
No
times.
member of the charter review shall serve concurrent appointments. So you can't serve one right after one another,
Right.
and no more than two appointments.
So you could do two in a row and.
No,
No, not two in a row, two, but not in a row.
Yeah, the original language is saying.
no member of the
no
charter
more than
review
two in a
committee
row,
shall
period.
serve.
That's it, you're done, you can't be on it anymore.
So do we,
That just doesn't make sense
Right.
to me.
so we want,
So it leaves the door open in case 5 years down the road and you wanted to be on it, you could apply for it.
so let's see if we're not consecutive, or do we want to allow consecutive appointments?
Two consecutive appointments,
Okay,
so you could be on this one and the next one.
yep,
Could not be on the third one,
yep, but you
Yeah.
can be on,
but you could be on.
at
the-
that point, you
on the
start over,
fourth
you can
one.
do, and the fifth,
Exactly.
but not, okay. As long as that's, yep, I'm okay with
That's
this.
kind of what we were trying to do with the
We-
one that's
right.
talking about. with her.
Concurrent or consecutive.
Yeah,
Same
It
thing.
needs a little bit of.
Well, concurrent means the same time, I thought that was, made it sound like you could serve on this and the sewer
Maybe
committee or
maybe
something.
consecutive is a better word.
I think
to your point.
consecutive should be,
Yeah, I think
Is
that's
that-
a better word.
That's what I was having trouble with. What was the intent of what's in there? And it sounded to me like you couldn't be on the Charter Review Commission and anything else.
that, you see that, if we don't,
And
if
then
we
you
want to
couldn't be
allow
on-
you to be on two things, then I say you can serve no more than two concurrent appointments. And if we're dealing with serving on this committee and then serving on it again in a future period, that would be consecutive.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, yeah. I think that makes sense.
So So the original language is confusing to start,
Concurrence.
because it should have been consecutive and it's.
And it's
Yeah.
concurrent.
I
Okay,
think
so
we-
that also, so, okay, so
Yeah, I think
our
we just-
starting point is off.
We just rolled with it thinking it was correct, but yeah,
Okay.
I think that's better language. I think
Yeah.
it
Okay,
that-
so,
Makes sense, Paul.
okay, so.
Yeah, I think
Just
it's
so I
good,
get
yeah.
it down right here. So shall serve.
Yeah.
No more than two concurrent.
No more.
Two
consecutive-
consecutive appointments, no more than two consecutive appointments.
Now,
Hold on,
if you want them to be able to come back after a break, like Scott's saying, you're probably gonna have to include language that says that that's allowable.
okay,
Because it wouldn't.
because that may make it sound like two for
You
life.
You can only serve two concurrent and then that's it. Yeah, it's not
Okay,
consecutive. Excuse me, we chose that. Consecutive.
so no more than,
No more than two consecutive, but they may
but may,
reapply after
You're looking at West Warwick.
a break or something.
No. Yeah.
Come up with
No
something.
connectivity here anyhow.
I don't think that I can look it up.
Okay, no, let me,
and similarly,
Look at
are
that
we
again.
okay if you
Okay.
serve on this committee and the sewer committee, the planning board at the same time? Do we want? Are we okay with that,
Remember,
or, because that's why now we got concurrent, I wasn't sure if that. Or if we should just not mention it at all.
Yeah, it's too clear. that.
Consecutive appointments.
Just gonna give my monkey.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
So it should be,
In other words, if I'm on this charter
Remember the
commission, in
charter
2 years,
review
I'm on the
committee.
commission again, I can do that.
shall serve.
Right.
The third one, I cannot.
Correct.
Take out the word no at the end of the thing. It should read.
We should have examples. If Dick
no,
Oh,
on the
God.
committee.
No, 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 no.
Shall serve
for the first time,
more than.
You're gonna make this sound like my logic class back in college.
Because the word no needs to come out of there. You see the.
I'm having flashbacks to
with some
logic
with some
101.
drawings.
Stick figure.
No member of the charter review committee shall serve more than two, yeah, the no needs to come out as well.
Yeah, then no, yeah, right.
That still doesn't allow them to come back again.
No, but at the end of it, you're gonna have to add verbiage saying that after a break in service, you can reapply
Or you could put it at the
reappointed.
beginning, there is no limit to the number of times you may serve on the committee, but you may not serve more than two consecutive terms.
There you go.
that's better.
Write that down.
Good, do that.
What did I just say? I got it.
That's good, yeah, that's good.
Did we
In
change
your head.
anything about the rest of the language that we were discussing about?
I don't have my sheet in front of me.
So it's-
It's writing the stuff down on there.
Comprehensive.
There was just one more thing on it. In which it was upon approval by majority vote of the town council that's strucken and reviewed by the town council. But I would not die on that hill if the town council does not want to do that. I'd rather have the rest of it.
Yeah, so 1520 B is a totally different,
This is all new language.
Yeah, that's, nothing changed.
and
This is
all that
all
does
new.
is that spells out the comprehensive.
Yeah,
Right. And the only thing on here, and I was hoping we would get the some of the polling data back. Is how many years? We put the polls out on the website,
Oh, whether it be 10.
10, 10, 15 or
15,
25, I think is
yeah.
what we put down on there. I think it should be on the longer side, personally. I would go for those three choices. I would go for the 25. But I'd like to see what the results are that we were getting back from the polls.
We'll ask. her
Because
to
again,
get that.
not another thing I intend to die on,
Right.
for that. We'll go with whatever people think
Well,
is
the
the
question
best.
to the voters, whether they
Yep.
think it's outdated and it needs to be, streamlined, straight down the road.
And if it's done correctly the first time that it's gone through, okay, and it's future proofed the way it should be, then subsequent special reviews should not have a lot to do except
Right.
confirm it.
Right.
Good point.
So, just for the record, so the language that gets changed in 1520, the A that you all have talked about will need to be inserted in 1520 B to mirror as far as the consecutive appointments and that kind of thing.
Well, if it's every 25 years, somebody would be appointed for, if they're consecutive, it'd be 50 years, they'd be on, right?
Right, but it's 10, it could be.
But even then, would you need that if it's every 10 years? You know,
We don't all-
right,
Yeah.
no, I think it's a good point, but is it necessary to have that language in there?
Yeah,
Other than to protect somebody who might want to be on that,
Or unless you want to set a date on it that every 25 years, it's mandatory that you have it, fine.
I think that the comprehensive one should be required, but I like the 25. I think doing it every 25 years to do the full review, make sure everything's up to date, all those type of things.
Such a changes in state law.
Right.
consecutive appointments is
And the
a
growth of
moot
the,
point.
and the growth of the community.
You can get somebody who worked on the charter 25 years prior beyond, you'd be like, great,
Star.
Oh,
Read that.
Maybe they know.
come on in.
I won't be reading it.
I know, I mean,
yeah, that's good.
And then basically just
Yeah.
strike that until we get to
Yeah.
the no member of elected.
It's good.
The two I had handed out, I didn't, Bob, I knew you were gonna split it into A and B. I didn't know you were gonna be also adding in what we had talked about for changes, so mine are kind of mirror what. This is yours. It's kind of the same thing. Where you have the line out in red. So I don't really know how much we need to discuss.
So these need to kind of be blended together then, is that right?
Yeah,
Did anybody add any language to it about, charter review recommendations going directly on the ballot?
yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was each recommendation of the committee upon review by the town council will be placed on the ballot, and what struck was approval of a majority vote of the town council.
Where is that?
It's in 15A.
last of the second poll.
Oh, yeah.
mine was a little different, but you can, whatever works best.
On review by the town council.
And I believe they use the same language in the other.
So in other words,
Which paragraph is that in?
It's the last.
it's the end of the first paragraph.
Recommendation of the committee. Upon, review by the town. Shall be placed. Okay. So the committee recommendations go on, and they will be titled as such, is that how?
They can, I don't think we,
I don't know that we've decided whether or not they should be titled as such. They certainly could be. Would that be
Either way.
something that you would want ingrained into the charter itself?
Yeah, okay.
I had that on what I did, but
Is it-
like I
that's-
said, we
is that-
can
well-
work on meshing.
Well, all I'm thinking is it's the town council that decides the final ballot question, correct? So that would actually right now be their decision as to whether or not they wanted to split that out. This is a town council recommendation. This is a charter review committee recommendation.
Right, so it's whether or not they want to allow the people to approve something that we wrote as opposed to what they would like to have put on.
It would eliminate the source of where it's coming from. So if the wording goes through as is, if the town council has the ability to review.
Yeah.
But not approve.
Okay. Gotcha.
It
Yeah,
doesn't-
but it's not, I guess where I'm confused is not, where's the decision point? In other words, upon recommendation of the committee, upon review by the town council, shall be placed on the ballot. What's the review? What does review mean?
It just means that.
we
they
make
can
our
read it and
presentation
they
for it
can't-
and they get to see it,
They
Yeah,
can't
they
vote
get to
on it.
read
but
it.
they can't say,
And provide
Too bad.
feedback,
Okay,
they could, yeah, I'm okay with them providing feedback on it.
Okay.
But
that's good.
in a situation in which you've got a minor wording change that. One side or the other may not like, you want to work that out, not just throw the whole thing out.
Right.
Sorry, I do believe in compromise in politics. failing of mine, but
I can tell Jim's still got a question.
Each recommendation of the committee. Say nonpartisan,
Upon review,
upon review, the town council reviewed it,
but it doesn't.
We
say
don't like
upon
it.
Approval. It says
We don't
upon
like it.
review.
and we don't like it. Town council says we don't like this at all. And it's just put on the ballot.
That's,
Maybe they put it on the ballot and they say the town council does not support this. I don't know. They can.
and that could
not
be
trying
as
to
well.
steal any glory or any power away from the council, but if we're here creating a document for the people, I think that
The people ought to get it.
the people ought to at least get a chance to vote on it.
And there's nothing preventing the town council from
Putting their
countering
own.
their own.
Sure.
And then the language that's already in the charter says the one with the most votes wins.
Sure.
If that's the way you want to do it, I know there's been discussion back and forth, then you may have to strike, I think you will have to strike the last sentence of the last paragraph, because that gives the town council the ability to approve the statement as it shall appear upon the ballot.
I mean, if you want to take a look at what I.
Oh, I see what Ray's saying.
Okay,
Yeah,
yep,
yes.
all right, I see it.
What did
Maybe
you-
Brad's got the answer here. Where's your language, Brad?
It's the red, well, I didn't do the line out in the red in the same, like, standard, sorry.
That each recommendation of the committee shall be placed upon the ballot. Questions on the ballot will be notated as to whether it was a recommendation of the charter review committee or the town council. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
That's great. That's what we need. What do you think? We'll just use this language.
Right, and then.
So it's
to-
crystal clear.
To raise,
Well,
point, to
yes,
strike
that-
those at the end,
Yeah, that,
last sentence.
What did you?
that would
say,
need to
Tom?
be struck.
Sorry, the second paragraph
Yeah,
down,
I like,
at the last sentence, the town council shall approve the statement of the question as it shall
What I
appear on the
highlighted.
ballot. So we would get rid of that, right? Keep what Brad suggested.
Yeah, where it says each recommendation, we could use that statement and then where Ray pointed out the town council, you could just get rid of that paragraph
Okay,
sentence.
which.
very last one, the town council
Yeah.
shall approve the statements.
So it's this. one.
This
I'm sorry, I was
can be
looking-
here, this,
I was looking at this one.
yeah, I highlighted, want to use my highlighter for free. Sorry, it's a lot, we got a lot of stuff going.
I hadn't done one of those
That
line outs before.
That replaces
I'm
that and
sorry.
that can be
All right,
jettisoned.
yeah, so it carves out, just a statement. It doesn't say anything about any digest or description thereof or any question.
Okay.
So actually, what it does is it just carves out that word or statement. Okay,
Okay, so that language. would go into there.
okay. Anything further on 1520?
That's it for 1520. What's, somebody has something? On the news. I think they had
B,
on the B section, yeah. That's all new language. That's pretty much what we've been discussing.
Brad, did you put anything on that?
Not the
No,
B,
no.
no.
So should the same language for each recommendation of the committee shall be placed on the ballot be included?
Yeah,
Mhm.
So,
it should be in the
Yeah.
comprehensive review too, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I would hate for a whole year comprehensive review to be voted against by the town, by 3 members of the town council.
Great point.
and one would think, seeing that they're the ones that are empowering it, that they,
But the problem is some of the years they're doing it, theoretically doing it because they have to. That's the other thing.
And because they have the ability to add to it,
I don't see what the problem is when they can add their own questions, even if they want to do something completely different. and
Certainly
basically
involved.
let-
certainly feedback, hopefully it's very collaborative. And at the same time, they could add stuff.
As long as they can't take
Take away.
That's right.
you want to send, Bob, do you want to send it to them with suggested time to do it, or do you want to leave it?
let me add these in, I'll get these in this week and get it out to Ben and
Okay,
as long as there's no, do it like we did with the questions, as long as there's no objection. Move it over to them.
You're gonna strike the part about how many times or.
Yeah, I'm gonna rework that too.
That it?
So,
That's it for me
Uh,
for now.
Section 260, Article 3, Fire Department, Mike, sent me an email. Actually sent me a text saying that he wasn't gonna be able to be here because he's stuck in South Carolina, but he will have some language for us next week. I think he was dealing with setting a date of July 1st of 2023 for the creation of the municipal fire department. I went to the last fire district meeting that they had across the street last week. It doesn't seem like they're taking a really hard look at what they're doing, because their time is running out. But I was told that the fire district chairpersons, excluding operations like chiefs and so forth, will be in front of the council on the 13th. So there'll be some discussion there. I think it's probably got their attention now. Where they've just been kind of like waiting and waiting and waiting. And I think maybe they're starting to realize that section 260 there that was put in 1949 probably means something. As opposed to them saying, well, you know, it really doesn't matter. We were told by the council president that we couldn't discuss it, and yes, we can discuss it. We can't change it because it's a statute. They can't change it either. They can only be changed by the General Assembly. And they are running out of time. Really, really quickly. So, you know, hopefully, on the 13th, I will probably go there. I know some other chiefs that are gonna go there, even though they weren't invited, but if anything needs to be brought up in public comment, I'm sure it will. But this was certainly something that they shouldn't drag their feet on. So let's go to section 201 election warhead.
Okay. I kind of hit the next three, 201, 207, and 209. Basically, I handed this out last week. We started out, I think our consensus was we wanted to switch back to use the base partisan election, partisan primary. Right now, we already have the first part of 201, which is election law provisions of the Constitution, general laws, state or down now here in effect pertain to elections, special, general, and primary shall all govern all town elections so far as they may be applicable. That alone basically says we will follow the state. Back to 201 in just 1 second, striking out the rest of what is currently in 201, all of 207 and all of 209 takes care of getting rid of our references to nonpartisan election. Our primary system that we chose to use with a nonpartisan thing goes away and everything will default to the state law. What I've added this week from last week's is a sentence that's in red that basically allows for early in-person voting for any election that does not fall under state law, which right now I believe is just our budget referendum, but I've left it open, basically saying if state law doesn't apply, this kicks in, that there would be 5 business days from 9 to 5 that you can vote in person. And I ran it by Ray. Ray gave me the good to go on that. So that puts it in. Again, if state law, and I know that just changed today.
right,
So most of the other things have this, I don't know what they're, how, 3 weeks? Is it something?
20 days.
20 days,
20
okay.
days previous. Can I make one recommendation?
Sure.
Instead of doing a time of 9 to 5, can we just put the language similar to what state law has and say during normal business hours?
Do they have that, Ray? I'm just gonna look to you and say, is that okay?
It's, yeah.
I just wasn't sure if we needed to define it because
Send it on both.
4:30, I think.
Yeah.
If I can help you with this. If you went with the beginning of that sentence, for any election or referendum,
Mhm.
it should be for any election and or local. Or any local election and or referendum. So you get the word
Okay, yeah.
local in there.
I
Local,
agree,
yeah, okay, yep, okay.
Yeah, because the only one that doesn't follow a Title 17 election, I believe, would
Be the
be
budget,
the
but
budget.
I'm trying to keep it so it's, yeah, local ad, change the times to during the hours,
Business hours.
during the
Yeah.
normal business hours of the town hall, town office?
Well, I would
Or
say,
just-
well, I would say Board of Canvas.
They would be going.
Okay,
Because.
So they would be.
well, it would be
comparing.
here
Voting,
to there.
early voting. That's where early voting takes place.
Early voting doesn't take place.
Yeah, but that's fine, because. You know, there's not gonna be anybody at, you know, in the building where the budget is gonna take place, right? So you have to vote.
The early voting would be, would have to be here.
It would have to
and that's
be
where the-
in
And I don't think we need to
vote.
specify that.
No, I thought about putting that part, but then I was like, that,
No.
No.
Local board.
I would just put.
normal
during,
business hours.
Be as
Okay,
specific as to where.
That's, sometimes I'm worried if I put it too vague that it gets challenged and,
And I know.
but yeah, that's fine.
But
I'll
I think that's
update
a
that.
great addition to add the 5 days.
Yep.
Of early voting in those situations.
And I don't know, maybe something else will come up that would fall under this. I don't know what that is, but just trying to cover potential future.
Well, it also covers, you know, the place where someone complains on social media that says, I didn't get a chance to vote. Okay, you do now.
Exactly.
So-
There you got 5 additional days.
You know, when it take, you know, people that work, you know, second shift or people that work third shift that sleep during the day, you're just giving them a little bit more time. And
What about mail-in for local elections? Is really pretty much absentee. I would think might be adequate. I mean, have to exist.
I would think that for this, if you wanted to do that, you would have to come here. So since you're coming here already, you can vote when you're here.
You could do it all by mail. though.
You can do it by now.
They
Yeah.
request, I mean, the military does it.
Right.
You know, it's already done. I
Yeah.
assume it's done for
We
local
could- we could,
elections as well.
yeah.
It has to
we could ask
exist.
the canvassers about, because.
Just
I'm trying to
how
think of
loose do you
who
want the
does
rules?
who picks the ballot for the
Some towns
local
do
question.
that.
I think it's
Yeah.
still printed by the state.
Yeah.
They use
State
their
does,
equipment.
they're
There'd be a
using
lot. I think there'd be a lot.
Yeah, but at least
It wouldn't-
even if it was 5 voters.
It wouldn't be the COVID mail everybody a ballot thing. It would just be, you can do this, you know, if you're, can't get out of your house, if you're
You're shut
away,
in and so
if
forth.
you're, you know, a million things.
the way
It must
goes.
exist. I just don't know if it exists or not right now.
Well, maybe not the local stuff, but it certainly
should.
is, but. you know,
It should, or you're
so-
shutting people out.
So. I'll ask, the board of canvassers
Yeah.
what they think.
Yeah.
And, you know, even if, you know, if you have someone that's shut in and can't be there and want to participate, you know. If I was part of the board of canvassers, I would ask the clerk to take another person with her, go to their
Yeah.
house,
Non-partisan fair, yeah.
you know.
And
and-
bipartisan.
and
yeah,
just get a couple of witnesses, let the person fill out the ballot, put them in the sealed envelope.
But you know, even a business guy has got to be in Singapore. You know?
The newspaper, you don't need witnesses things anymore,
Yeah,
Right.
but it's dramatically changed.
it'll be in that
Yeah.
letter. It'll be in the letter we're mailing out.
You have to sign your
They're
name.
still verifying signatures,
That's,
yeah.
that's the ultimate of signing the name, so.
And it's a fairly,
Ben's back.
it's a fairly simple process. I used it for years
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
elections.
But we should make it explicit, right? If we can do it.
But, there's never offered. for
We should
local.
make it explicit if we can do it.
So
Yeah.
Why not?
all of that was dealt with
It's
on
helpful.
201, 207, 209. I actually, I think I told you this before, I actually just changed, I did the same thing that you did, but I just.
You renumbered, I think,
I
because we end
renumbered
up with 208, which is just
208, yeah.
hanging out there.
Yeah,
Can throw that in as
Yeah.
well.
all right. So here we are with
So-
that.
I think on that is, it seems like there's two questions here, though. There's a question of partisan designation and early voting. And then getting rid of the primary, it's almost like there could be a third question in there.
Well, the primary procedure. If we're going back to partisan election, we need to strike that because right now it's mandating we use a completely different primary process.
Well, and it makes no sense to use a primary anyway. This town has 6,500 registered Democrats, 4,200 registered Republicans, and 15,736 non-affiliated. So.
Yeah.
Sometimes they become
But if you
affiliated.
get two people that are
Quickly.
in the same party that run, it's a primary.
Mhm.
They.
But if
when-
you
when
had
they
two
went to
people who are not
nonpartisan-
affiliated,
But when they went to nonpartisan and nobody's affiliated, it changed the primary system because the top two vote getters move on.
So here's the thing, if we strike the nonpartisan part, but don't strike primary, here's what we have. You register as a party. Let's say we have 3 Democrats. We have a primary. the top two Democrats go to the general election, and then the general election, you vote for one of those two. If we strike the primary part, the 3 Democrats go to the primary, and the one winner goes to the general election. That's the difference by keeping this or not.
Exactly, there has to be.
So if we want,
It has to-
if we want it to be we're gonna end up with 1 Democrat, 1 Republican, if both are on the ballot. We need to strike all of 209.
Yep.
That's why that's going through.
And 5 unaffiliated.
It's
Well, the
called-
unaffiliated can affiliate for that day, so it's not.
It's an automatic runoff.
Mhm.
That was the argument when people were talking about it, that, if you get, you get a runoff election. It just wasn't working, but here we are trying to get back to, I would call it normalcy. Because I think the people out there would like to know who their candidates are. And having a, a partisan label kind of helps you a little bit, and it would probably get that person to vote. And you'll be back in a column where people are actually, looking for a name, as opposed to, being nonpartisan off in Siberia somewhere on a ballot. That's what was happening. And that's why we saw so many undervotes for people that were running for council.
It's kind of, I just want to say, I actually, when they put forward this and said we're going to nonpartisan, I actually agreed with it, because I thought, now I have 2 names. I don't know what their parties are. I can't do that default of, oh, they have this letter, so they must agree with this or that. Now it's like, now we have people have to go and do research. You've proven to me that that didn't happen, and people have just skipped it rather than do
Correct.
research. So that's why I'm in favor of switching it back. And I mean, we could keep it as the, if you have multiple people to run off, but I think we're trying to get back to having a presentation of different ideas as thing. That's the way we should go.
Are we gonna vote on that before we bring it forward to council? Just because I personally do not support
Yes,
Which,
we
yes.
will.
which one?
partisan elections. I
we can
don't.
vote on that.
That's one, yeah, no, I haven't
So I
voted
just
on.
wanna make sure that on the record.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not putting forward because I got more updates as a minimum today right now, so.
The goal is to have 9 votes. On
No, I'm sorry, I can't agree with that.
No,
No, no, Now, no, no.
it. No,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right, I just wanna make sure.
The one bit of research we didn't do, so I crunched a lot of numbers, you crunched a lot of numbers, and the undervotes were significant. We could go to other towns where they are partisan and see what are their undervotes looking like.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what that is, but I have the time. It would be nice to look at that. It's the same logic we had earlier. Let's prove it. Let's make sure we're moving the needle again. If it stays the same. I mean, nonpartisan sounds good. It sounds,
It
we're
sounds,
all
yeah, it's
working
like,
together here.
yeah, we
We
got
all-
people. I gotta
we all
figure out,
want
I
the
gotta
roads
say
to
I'm
be
voting for
paved,
this person
the schools
because
to be
they
good.
agree. I looked them up and they want
I
this,
have
not.
a little trouble with this one too. I'm back and forth.
Oh, sure.
There was one other
Making
thing.
educated decisions.
Yeah, there's one other thing I brought up, the pros and cons on that.
I think I got the pros and cons from you.
Yeah, I think he's used.
I just did. I added one for, just for the
Okay.
early voting.
Oh, there's one in here that I think I would leave out. Voters.
By
tend to
all,
be poor-
please, I
Voters tend to
literally,
be poorly informed, which may be correct, but not politically
that's, yeah, probably.
expedient.
That's fair, yeah.
I had a couple of additions, either additions or maybe they can meld into what you wrote if you give that to them. I'm trying to not, I don't want to like bang something, to over promote something or to under promote something, just be factual about it.
Right.
So I threw those in, it brings us back to the way that people are, have done it, in the tried and tested way and stuff like that. So if you could review that, if you think that they can fit in there, I'd appreciate it. If not, that's
Yeah.
fine.
And the only other thing is that really we've got 2 questions here. Should the
I know,
elections for town office be changed to partisan designations? You may agree with that or not, but there's also, shall there be a voting afforded to election or revenue not covered by?
I mean, I'm okay splitting it. It's just that we had 2 different things going to the same section.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was why I merged it all into one. I mean, I agree with you that they're 2 separate items, just,
And you might be against one and for the other, and if they're all rolled into one bundle, who knows where that's gonna end up?
So we just split them out before we
Yeah,
send them to council.
I have no problem. doing
Because,
that.
yes, personally, I do support the early.
Sport one and
voting
not, yeah, that's fine.
process.
No, no,
Sorry.
no,
I wish I could be unanimous with everybody on that one.
don't worry. Again, I still have my principles that say I'd rather us be nonpartisan and we need to look up what people stand for, not what their party stands for, but. Again, I've been convinced by the data that it's unfortunately not happening that way.
To my mind, that's a piece of information that you should know whether or not it affects how you vote entirely.
Well,
or
that's,
not.
again, a judge.
It's a piece
That's-
of information about the candidate that you should know.
And
Yeah.
some of these problems could be better solved by other means than a charter change, right? Better voter information could look like the town putting the candidate's self-reported information in a very accessible place so that every candidate, we just take it right off their application and put it on the website, and then there's more information available, because right now, how would you find out about anybody?
It's very difficult.
This is a charter unchanged.
There you go.
right,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
So this, the
how
experiment,
you approach your solutions, though, is different administratively from charter, from what the town council might choose to vote on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
so I call it an experiment, and I won't say it failed, but I'll say that what it did is it caused less people to vote. People that ran for office got less votes, because probably no one was looking for them on the ballot, because they had no idea where they were. A couple of times they were in a third column, other times they were down below, but it didn't have any party indication on it, so this isn't a charter change, it's an unchanged. And like I said, what happened is town council people and school committee got less votes. And we can prove that through the undervotes, and I think when we do present this, I will tell the council person how many votes they did not get. Where had it been.
They could have not, they potentially could have had.
You potentially could have had these votes, but the people didn't know who you were, what you stood for, so they chose not to vote. Regardless of, I can't say regardless of party, because there was no party affiliation when that was
If they're
taking place.
party affiliated, I assume then the local party mechanism.
Would be somehow
They
campaigning
do-
for them, or at least,
A little something maybe. And to Ben's point, what else is done? If they, most people are gonna have their own website. Hopefully you find it on a sign or some mailing that you do. That's how you usually find out about folks. But I know all the towns, I mean, we're out of where everybody, they use a local cable TV channel they had. And every candidate had time on it, and you could watch it whenever you wanted to watch it. That could be done. That could be done easily.
Okay. New business. Polling questions, I didn't get a chance to ask Ben. What the latest,
And I wasn't able to pull it today. I'll ask my finance IT guy, my IT guy to get an
if you
update.
can do that and get them emailed to everybody, I know Bob is interested in with one of his changes.
No,
That'll include the other ones too. That probably
Well-
gaining traction.
do it all together.
Okay,
Just one something.
big dump.
So just in case there's any more that we have to put out there.
Good. Be
Okay.
good to see that.
Public comment, we do have someone.
Great.
Pauline Hawkins.
Is there a name there?
Yep, Pauline Hawkins.
Pauline Hawkins.
Pauline, how are you? You can turn your mic on. No hand up. If I remember right, Pauline used to work here in the town hall years ago. I think. So. If you're not familiar how to reach out to us, Pauline, I think you can raise your hand if you're not familiar on how to do it. And if not, we'll move on, and we'll move on to the public comment between us. Is there anything anyone else would like to say, Brad?
In the interest of time, I know there's some other questions we haven't discussed in a while. The like seven seats for town council, school committee versus mayor council, 6 and the mayor being the 7th. I think we need to decide which direction we want to go in on that, because I would think it would be counterproductive to work on both at the same time.
So. Our next week's agenda will be, it will be mayor. And it will be 7 council seats along with school committee seats. And we can discuss that. Like I said, we're trying to engage the public. The best way to do it is to make their districts a little bit smaller. So that they're closer to their representative, particularly in the western end. I would think that if they did a redistricting, you would see the people in Western Coventry have, you know, two voices out there instead of one. It may change, it may come east a little bit, maybe as far as Reed Schoolhouse Road. District 2 might lose a little bit, and however else they decide things. Remember, it's a proposal, and if it's what the people would like to do, then we got to give them a chance to vote on it. I think that right now, the general public really could care less about people that are in public office. And we need to gain their trust back. And I think that this is one of the ways to do it. So yes, it will be on next week's agenda.
Thank you.
And you have a couple of suggestions that go along with it, correct? If you do, send them. An
Yeah.
email to them or me or whoever.
Well, yeah, I think we have the questions up on the board. We can take a look at the new data.
Yeah, I'd like to see what, like,
Tomorrow.
see if any of that is increased. Anything further, Jim?
Of course. Two things. Communication plan with the town council.
Yeah.
Which I kind of really laid it out in that email, but I think it was only you and I
Yes.
that saw that.
So, council president reached out to Jim on her own. And wanted to have some discussion on our proposal, and Jim forwarded that to me. And I called him and asked him not to speak to her because of 2 reasons. One of them, we could violate the open meetings law, and the other one is we could be put into a trap. I will not allow that to happen. If anyone reaches out to you, tell them to please go through Ben.
How is that an LMA violation?
Well, I just want to be on the cautious side about this. What we want to do is we want to make sure that every council person can reach out to us, not just one directly. So if there are 4 other council people that want to speak to us and offer their suggestions, I prefer it go through you to all of us, not to one of us. Okay, so I did send Ian an email.
Okay.
I said the best way to handle this right now, where we are in the process, is to either join us in public comment or reach out to Ben, send him an email. He can share it with all of us and not just one person. So this way, everybody gets to know what somebody's saying and nobody's left out. So that was just, you know, one of my bigger concerns. Following, you know, what happened a few weeks ago. So that's the cautiousness that I'm using.
Makes sense.
That makes sense for me, and that was more of what I was wondering with the other question that we had voted to send to them with filling vacancies was if they, I was, I guess, expecting that they get to, anyone who had feedback would send it to Ben and then it would come back to us, so that way we would get like, if everyone sent back, all right, here are the notes from Ann and from Jamie, and it just go down the list and whatnot. I don't know if we got any feedback from any of that.
I got 8 feedback from 2.
Okay,
One said that they had no feedback because, you know, they're waiting for the recommendations.
okay,
And the other one mixed it in with some other town business. So
Okay.
that I couldn't just
Couldn't
forward the
okay.
email, but I've now discussed it with them and I can copy and paste and forward that on, so.
And clearly
Yep.
Ann has some feedback, and I know it's something she's pretty passionate about, so.
She's very
It'd
passionate
be
about
good.
the budget, and I understand.
It'd be good to get it. Yeah.
You know, because we need to get it right. But,
Right.
but I'd like to know how the other 4 people on the council feel about it too, so. You know, if they don't want to participate, that's fine, but, one-on-one is not good. It needs to be, everybody has to get it, so if it goes through Ben. If she says, Ben, I feel strongly about this and this and this, Ben can send it to all of us. And we all have that information instead of 1 or 2 of us. Does that sound fair?
It makes
Yep,
sense.
Howard.
Okay,
I mean, good to get that, you know. Be nice to have these things vetted in advance, we present. Ideally, the time we present, we kind of know the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I'm
You know,
anxious.
we don't want to
like
waste
I
people's
said,
time.
I wanted to do this to get their input in case there's something that we miss, that they know more about.
Yeah, okay.
And, let's hear it, but let's make sure that you tell all of us and not one of us.
Yeah, I mean, the budget thing is complicated.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's the most important part of the function of this, our government, so,
To get one thing passed, that would be great.
yeah. Let's get this language right the first time and make sure that.
yeah, because to echo what Jim just said, like, I don't want us to be, we make a presentation and then we get a laundry list of suggestions and then we have to come up and basically do it again. I'd like to get it all worked out. So our presentation is the last
I
presentation.
did get some comments that weren't in writing that I'm not able to necessarily share, but I'll verbally share that there were some concerns about the petition, the number of petitions. You know, representatives need 50 to get on the ballot, senators need 100, and 20 seemed too low for changes to the budget, but depending on where you're in the process there.
Great question.
There's like, what is the rationale for
Mhm.
20 versus 20% of the voters in the last election?
Well, I think it was,
So-
maybe they're confusing that there's 2 different petition processes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, that was the question.
okay.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yep.
We wrestled with that ourselves, so we could, this is where maybe we can come to some compromise and get their feedback. That'd be great. That's super. The other question too, in timeline, we talked about it a little bit before the meeting. Because I remember Ann put up some deadlines, it's June now. In your mind, I mean, with everything we're working on that we need to fine tune, finalize, get feedback and vote on. And then there's vacations and people being at beaches and end of school and
So
Yeah, we're
things
still looking at
things
2020.
unravel quickly.
your do or die date to get your recommendations in writing to the council is June 23rd. So that it can be on the agenda for the 27th, so that it can be in their packet. Let me double check that.
This is what Ann was saying.
No, this is, well,
I think it was consistent though.
Yeah,
the
27th.
the 17th would be ideal because we do our agenda setting meeting on the 20th for the 27th. But, you know, we have some wiggle room, but 22nd would be the drop dead date to put things in their packet. Like,
Mhm.
if you want the council to have a prayer of digesting it before they get to the meeting, the sooner I can get it to them, the better.
So really, we need to be voting on these amendments next week.
That would be preferable, yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Which leads to 15.
The report, my understanding is the report gets done at the end of this. Or I've seen documents in the past of the report. I guess my question is too, is that expected and is it expected at the presentation or is it expected after? In my mind, it makes more sense to do it after it's been presented and it's been decided what's going forward.
I'll say that's up to you. The dynamics that we're working with is this committee was to have been stood up in December, but for lack of a full quorum, it didn't happen until January. You have 6 months, but 6 months from January 17th puts you into July 17th. And while that's the legal parameter, it's impractical because of the deadline to get on the November ballot. So the time that the council needs to deliberate, this is a very deliberative council. And if they don't understand something, they're not voting on it. If they don't understand the implications, they're not voting on it. And they have delayed some things that I think are routine and simple because they didn't have enough information. So they really want as much time as they can get to deliberate. And so if you feel that you need more time to do a proper report, even after June 27th, the timing is such that they are on summer schedules and they're right now putting out feelers among the members. I haven't seen everyone respond to see whether they'd be willing to do a special council meeting, a work session just to get through these in July. They have one meeting in July on the 25th. And the question for them is that too late for them to do what they feel they need to do? So ideally, this would have been done a couple weeks ago and they'd have time to deliberate this month to the 27th and have July 25th as the fallback. July 25th is looking more and more likely to be, well, they'll take all your input on the 27th and then deliberate and make decisions on the 25th of July. Is what it's shaping up to be like. So if your report were to come out, say, July 15th, that might not be very
Not gonna
helpful
take
to
that
them.
long.
If the report's done by June 30, that might still be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd hate to see all the hard work go by the wayside because they don't have enough time to deliberate. I mean, we've worked really hard on this for months.
And they are very mindful of that and they're feeling very concerned
Right.
because they want to do justice to your work.
Yeah.
But they haven't gotten much
And
to
so,
go on, so.
Right.
fair enough. What does this report look like? I mean, I guess there must be a template for it that was used before, or?
I've seen a couple of older ones. I have some thoughts on.
I think it's your own report.
We could be
There
doing
isn't a prescriptive format.
Okay,
It's, I think what would make sense is you're gonna summarize each of the recommendations in the background and the justification and what you're thinking.
I mean, I can have it.
Is the 2010 report online on the website?
I just get a sense of what that looks like.
I know we got it.
No, it
pretty
doesn't
quick.
look like
Numbers, pages and stuff. I think it's good what you need.
Yes, clear and concise.
Yeah.
It's government, less is more.
The meeting is the 23rd, is that correct?
27th.
27th, okay.
The
think
20,
that's-
the 22nd is the drop dead deadline for
The agenda.
what gets on the agenda. Because we have to publish the agenda Thursday, the 23rd.
But right now, they've got what I gave them. They've got a couple
They
that
got
you
the-
gave them.
they
So
got the-
they've gotten some info. Right, that we asked.
I forwarded
For
your
mine.
stuff. I didn't get anything from you
Oh.
to share with the council.
Mine was I'll send it again, the filling
Okay.
vacancies proposal.
Okay,
We had
please.
voted to send
Yeah.
that.
I mean, yeah, so there were no changes
From the last
from
version,
the last version.
correct.
Okay, so.
The only
Or just forwarded it.
question that we were
Get that one out.
debating
I-
was if there was a change to. if we
Jim
wanted to put
had
a-
formatted his and had a lot of content.
Yeah, mine didn't.
And yours didn't. So
It didn't.
I didn't go back and just take it from the file that I already had.
That's,
A lot of them are fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
Bob's got a lot, and some of those are fairly straightforward, so, yeah.
that can be
they'll put it together.
Yeah,
It's all there.
anything you have to
I
the
think it's a
council,
package.
send me a fresh email to just forward to them
Yep.
so that I
Yeah.
know what I'm forwarding, because I don't
Yeah.
wanna.
no, I'll update,
forward
I'll put it into a better.
the wrong version from 2 months ago.
Right.
They'll just be confusing. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'll update it. Try to
Yeah,
get
they,
it today,
they,
but-
Okay, anything further? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote aye, we are adjourned.
Thanks.